Hey guys, SpinoDude here, and welcome to the first video of 2018, and it's a very special one because today, guys, we are going to be taking a look at this spectacular piece. This is the 2017 Vitae 1/35th scale Giganotosaurus carolinii. Now, my co-host Marvin was unable to help me bring this figure to the review table just because it is so massive and heavy. If you've been staying tuned to the channel, you remember that Vitae so kindly sent us over this Giganotosaurus figure to the channel for free so we could produce a video review on it. We did do an unboxing video on this. If you want to see that, link will be down below in the description. In that video you can see the packaging design and such. And this is the first product from the new company Vitae in Hong Kong, China, so I'm super excited to do this review for them today. So without further ado, guys, why don't we dive straight into the review. Before we take a closer look at the figure, here are a few quick facts about Giganotosaurus itself. Giganotosaurus carolinii means giant southern lizard. It was a massive carcharodontosaurid from the Cretaceous period of what is now South America. Giganotosaurus was described in 1995 from an almost 3/4 complete skeleton, estimating the animal could grow up to a whopping 42 feet long, rivaling the famous Tyrannosaurus rex in size. Its teeth were flat and serrated, perfect for slicing through the flesh of its victims. Being related to the pack-hunting Mapusaurus, a current theory is that Giganotosaurus was also a pack hunter, perhaps taking down larger prey such as the Titanosaur Andysaurus. So without further ado, guys, let's start taking a closer look at this awesome Cretaceous predator. Alright guys, so here is the 1/35th scale Vitae Giganotosaurus carolinii in all of its glory. And let me just say, with the base and everything all put together here on display, this is an absolutely stunning piece. I can't really spin the figure too much while it's on its base to get a good look at the other side, but we're going to remove the two parts separately and take a look at the base first, and then take a look at the Giganotosaurus second later on in the video. And this entire piece is 5 parts in total. There is the Giganotosaurus here with the 2 metal pegs that come out of its feet and slide back in and into the base there, into the footprints. And then there is this little tree on the side, a dead looking tree. And then we've got the base, of course, which is the 5th and final piece to this set. So here is the base that comes with the Giganotosaurus here, and this is absolutely breathtaking. It just looks like a chunk of the earth was taken straight out of the ground for use with this model. I feel like if I put this down, a bunch of water and dirt is going to spill all over my review table. That's how lifelike this looks, and on camera I really don't think it does it justice. You've got to see this in person. You can see the footprints for the Giganotosaurus here, which just look like footprints in the mud, and they've got these 2 holes in the center of the footprint there where you can put the metal pegs to support the Giganotosaurus while it's standing. Then we've got this basic sandy rock across most of the base. You can see a log on the top there. And it transitions nicely into some wet mud, which then transitions into this pool of water. Now the dead branches and foliage in the water here look absolutely lifelike. It's breathtaking. And it just looks like the water cascades almost like a waterfall right off of this side. And this has a very nice feeling to the touch as well if you rub your fingers across it. Over here you can also see a part where the tree attaches to the base. We'll take a look at that separately in just a second. The base is very thick, as you can see, and it's actually the heaviest part of the entire kit. And on the bottom of the base you can see there is this nice foam texture on the bottom there so that this doesn't scratch the surface that you have the model displayed on. There's also a nice silhouette of the Giganotosaurus carolinii there, and you can see it has some Japanese or Chinese lettering, and it says 1/35th scale scenario set Giganotosaurus carolinii. And then of course there's the Vitae logo on the bottom right. Here is the tree that attaches to the base. This is fairly simple. It just has 2 colors on it, it looks like, in the mold. It's nicely done though, and it's a nice addition. They could have easily just gone with the base as it is, but it's just a basic brown color, and you've got some green spots where there's moss growing on the tree. And that just attaches like so to the base. It's very simple, and it's stable as well, but if you hold this upside down, it will fall out, so just make sure you're careful with that. There are also 2 of these metal pegs that are included with the kit, and those just slide into the footprints or into the bottom of the feet on the Giganotosaurus, either way you want, and it's very stable once the Giganotosaurus Giganotosaurus is on here. I'll show you how to properly attach it later in the video. And here is the Giganotosaurus itself, and yes, it does stand on its own, so the base is just a bonus. I saw some people were concerned that it needed a base for stability, but if you're getting this just for the Giganotosaurus and if you want to play with it, which I don't recommend playing with it because it's more of a display piece than it is a play piece, but if you just wanted the figure on its own, here it is, and it stands up just fine, except for when it tumbled there, but you've still got to be careful because it's made out of a slightly more rubbery material. And my review table is on a slightly sloped floor, so that's why it's having trouble standing, but if it's on a completely level surface, it will stand just fine. Detail-wise, this entire figure is spectacular. The detail is very similar to Papo, actually. We'll just flip it over to the other side so you can get a quick glance. And the skin feels real. It has a rubbery texture to the actual skin, and it reminds me of the old Jurassic Park toys by Kenner, except it's not quite as rubber. It's still got a firm texture. But it really feels like a real Giganotosaurus, almost like a baby Giganotosaurus that you're holding. The musculature in the limbs is done beautifully. It looks completely naturalistic and very well done. Here's a closer look at the arm, which looks very nice. I do have one minor nitpick with the arms though. And if we switch over to this one, you can see it there. There's a slight gap, and if we pull on it, you can see that's where the arm was attached in the factory, and it was probably glued into place and it's just come loose a little bit. That can be easily fixed, but it's still kind of unfortunate that that's happening. Here's a closer look at one of the feet, which look very bird-like and are extremely well done. The claws are this nice mix of a peachy and a creamy color, and it looks incredibly naturalistic. On the other foot, you can see the dew claw hanging off of the back of the ankle there. Another thing I like with this figure is the tail. The tail is extremely long, and with some other dinosaur figure manufacturers, they tend to shorten the tails a little bit sometimes, but they definitely did not skip out on the length of the tail with this Giganotosaurus. You can see it takes up probably over half the length of the body if it was stretched out altogether. And here's a quick look at the head on this Giganotosaurus figure. Absolutely spectacular. The detail here is incredible, and I think the head is definitely my favorite part of this entire piece. The eye is done in some bold colors, which I'm very fond of, and it works out really nicely with the color scheme they've gone for overall on this theropod. The eye is done in a bright blood red color with a white ring around it. The ridges down the snout of the skull, which Giganotosaurus is known to have, are also done very nicely. And on the tip of the snout, you can see the nostrils have been carved out there. Now this figure does have an articulated jaw, and this is where my other nitpick comes into play about this figure, because if I let go with my hand, you can see it opens up, and if I wanted this Giganotosaurus to have a closed mouth, I'd probably need to put a rubber band around the jaw. It's staying there, but over time it's going to droop to about that point because it's very loose. I'm not sure if this is for every single figure of the Giganotosaurus from Vitae, or if this is just mine that I've received here. But I would like to display it with a closed mouth sometimes, but I'm stuck with only having the option of leaving it open. The articulated jaw, of course, though, is a very nice touch, and it can open wider than this. Now, this feels like the limit, but if you put enough pressure on it, you can actually open the jaw all the way to the bottom of its neck. And you can see the bottom of the neck poking through the inside of the jaw there, which is slightly disturbing, actually. Let's close that up. And you can see that the tongue is just rubbing against the bottom of the neck there, and it just pops into place. So you can open it if you want that wide, but the paint will probably scrape off on the back of the tongue, which you won't see too much of anyway. But I personally like mine slightly open, probably about there. And the tongue holding onto the back of the neck protrusion through the back of the jaw is keeping the jaw open in place. However, I would like to display mine with the jaw shut, and I feel like even if it was shut to this extent, it wouldn't quite hold the shape of what looks like a Giganotosaurus in my opinion. So if you press it, because of the rubbery material this is made out of, if you press it in, you can sort of see it takes the shape of what looks more like a Carcharodontosaurid in my opinion. But nonetheless, I still think it looks fine with the jaw open like that, and that's the way I have it displayed on my nightstand right now, and it still looks utterly fantastic. I also forgot to mention the spikes and scoots running down the back of the animal. It's a really nice addition, and I love the larger scales that are sort of bordering the larger spine sticking out from the spine there. Really nicely done, and those run all the way to the tip of the tail. I'm running out of room on my review table here because this Giganotosaurus is absolutely massive. Now, attaching this figure to its base is very simple, but I would recommend removing the metal pins from the base first and inserting them into the bottom of the Giganotosaurus's feet. And once those are inserted into the feet, it should slide into its footprints very nicely. Now, color-wise, I absolutely love the color scheme they've gone for here. It's completely naturalistic, but it's so exotic at the same time. Some people were complaining here that the color scheme was too similar to other theropod dinosaur models, but I really don't agree with that. Certainly greens and browns have been used many times in the past, but I haven't really seen them used in this particular configuration. You can see the underside of the animal and some spots on the face, and the crest above the eyes is done in this tannish color with some hints of peach. And the main animal is done in a dark green color with some mottled spots of a yellowish green almost. Also, the pose on this figure is quite nicely done. From some angles I think it looks a little bit stiff, but overall I think it's really nicely done. Now, why don't we do a quick measurement of this massive figure? So Marvin, why don't you bring out the tape measure? Thank you, Marvin. Alright, we've got our trusty tape measure here. Because this figure is so big, the flexi ruler just won't do for today. So why don't we do a measurement of the figure? So the Giganotosaurus itself is about 15 inches long, and in terms of the height, we're looking at about 5 inches. Now, the entire piece with the base, in terms of the length, we're looking at about 16 or 16 and a half inches. And in terms of the height, including the Giganotosaurus at the highest point, we're looking at about 6 and a half inches. Now, it's going to be so hard because this Giganotosaurus is absolutely massive on my review table. It takes up so much space with its base and everything, and the figure itself is absolutely huge, as you just saw in the measurement. But I thought I'd bring out the Papoacrocanthosaurus for comparison quickly, because these two are Carcharodontosaurids, and Papo and Vitae have similar detail qualities amongst each other. I think these figures look quite nice with each other actually, but you can see that the Vitae Giganotosaurus absolutely towers over the Papoacrocanthosaurus. And I thought I'd also bring out the classic Papo standing green T-Rex with the design inspiration, of course, from the Lost World Jurassic Park. A lot of people have this figure and the brown variant of this figure, so I thought it would be a good figure to bring in for comparison here. And you can actually see with the Giganotosaurus on its base here, these two figures actually almost look eye to eye, and it almost looks like they're squaring off with each other if you pose them correctly, which is pretty cool. Alright, it's time for my overall rating, guys, and overall, I think this Vitae Giganotosaurus carolinii 1/35th scale scenario set deserves 4 stars out of 5, an epic rating. Now, it was close, but it didn't quite make a 5-star legendary rating because of my 2 personal nitpicks on this figure. The first one, of course, being the very loose articulated jaw. I just wish it would stay closed on its own most of the time to give this figure a different expression, but it is stuck roaring most of the time. And then, of course, my other nitpick is the arms, which look like they can pop off if you're not careful. But then again, this is going to be a display piece and not a play piece most of the time. Yeah, but overall, I think this figure deserves a 4-star epic rating. For a first figure from a brand new company, it's extremely well done, and I think Vitae have a lot to be proud of here. Well, there we go, guys. That was today's look at the brand new Vitae Giganotosaurus carolinii 1/35th scale scenario set. For a first figure from a brand new dinosaur company, I think this is absolutely spectacular, and I cannot wait to see what Vitae makes in the future. If you guys are a fan of large carnivorous theropods, I highly recommend checking this figure out and adding it to your collection if you can. I'm going to put a link down below in the description to Vitae on Facebook. You can get in touch with them privately through Messenger, and they will get back to you. They are incredibly professional and super nice. So anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Also, leave a comment telling me what you think of this brand new figurine. So thank you so much, guys, for watching, and as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care, and bye-bye.